Okay, this next book, bitch. This next book. It was everything, period. Hey guys, welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Jocelyn Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my first wrap up. I think I read 14 books this month. I'm not going in the order that I read the books. I'm going to go from like 1 to 5 stars, so like lowest rating to highest rating. The first book I'm going to talk about is Shadow Me. I'm going to have to pop up a picture because it's an ebook, so it doesn't have a physical book. I don't know why I felt the need to explain that, but yeah, it's a novella in between Restore Me and Defy Me. I gave Shadow Me 2 stars. So Shadow Me was a novella from Kenji's point of view, which I was really excited for actually because Kenji is one of my favorite characters in the entire series. But I don't know, Kenji feels different in this second reboot of the series, like the continuation. Starting from Restore Me is when I saw Kenji kind of changing, where he just seems dumb, like, but not dumb in the sense of Kenji from the first 3 books where he was dumb, but it was a front because he didn't want to show his emotions and feelings, and he was always the funny character to make other people feel better. Here, Kenji just seemed dumb. Like, I didn't get that wise undertone. I just got dumb, like, period. Like, in this book, it mostly just followed him being horny. Like, that was about it. Like, he just was lusting after Nazira the entire time, which, I mean, cool. I love to see Kenji with the love interest, but like more. But I just thought it would be something deeper. Like, it didn't bring anything new to the table. It was just kind of pointless. It was just the events of Restore Me and Kenji's point of view. Yeah, so that's why I gave it 2 stars. It didn't give me anything, honestly. So the next 2-star book that I have is Fight or Flight. This book follows a Scottish man and an American woman who meet in an airport. They end up sitting next to each other in first class because of some type of scheduling error, and they kind of just bicker the whole way to their destination. And then she finds out that he knows someone that she knows in her hometown because she's going back to her hometown and he's going there for business, and she finds out she knows someone that he knows, and they end up running into each other over and over and over. So yeah, I thought I was gonna love this because it is enemies to lovers, and that's the superior trope. If you don't know, now you know. That is. So yeah, but I really was disappointed with this. This wasn't the type of, I mean, enemies to lovers that I can support, kind of, in some sense. Like, he was just really mean for no reason. Like, some of the things he said I don't think could be as easily forgiven, and I don't know how she could take him on as a lover after what he said. I started getting into it after the first 100 pages, and I was liking him because he was changing, and I was starting to see like what made him the way he was, and like he was starting to see another side of him. And then it got to this point where it really told you what made him how he was, and it was because, I don't know if this is a spoiler. If you want to know why I gave it 2 stars, then you can hear the spoiler and continue on. But I gave it 2 stars because when it told me like why he was the way he was, it was because his ex got an abortion and lied to him about it, and it really just villainized abortion. Like, when he even brought up why he was the way he was like, she killed my baby. And that, like, okay, I didn't like how it villainized abortion. It just treated it very poorly in my eyes. Like, she was made out to be this egotistical, selfish girl just because she got an abortion, and she said she got an abortion because she was worried about her body and her mental state. And they both, even the girl in the book, kind of looked at it like, oh my gosh, she's so horrible for thinking about her body and her mental state and getting abortion because of it. It was never villainized because she lied about getting an abortion. It was villainized because she got the abortion, period. And I'm just not here for that. I don't stand it. And it immediately dropped it from the 3-star that I had raised it to a 2-star. The first 3-star book that I have this month is Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. To be honest, what the fuck is this book about? This book is about a girl named Nadia who can talk to the gods, and it's not really common for people to be able to talk to the gods anymore, even though it used to be. And it also follows this prince who lives in this other kingdom, I guess, who does dark magic, and everyone else pretty much does dark magic except for Nadia's kingdom, who rely on the gods. The other kingdom that the prince is from don't believe in the gods as much, and they kind of find the gods sketchy. And Nadia's kingdom doesn't believe in dark magic. They find that sketchy, so they're kind of opposing. So the prince comes to Nadia's kingdom to try to kill her just because they find the people who talk to the gods kind of intimidating and dangerous, and they don't want them alive. So he comes to kill her, and she escapes. She runs into 3 people from the prince's kingdom, and they kind of go on the run together, and the prince is chasing them, and chaos ensues. So I gave this book 3 stars just because even just trying to explain that book to you just now, I was struggling. Like, I think it took me like 3 takes to finally get it all together in my head and to be able to explain it. And I didn't know what was going on, to be honest, in the beginning of the book. I mean, obviously you're not going to come out and just explain your world right off the bat, but I feel like it could have been explained better to where I could be into the book in the beginning. Once I finally got to the middle, I started getting into it, but it was very mediocre at best. Like, I wasn't pulled into the story. Yeah, I honestly don't have much to say about this, like, because I don't remember it that much, honestly. It was okay when I read it. It's a 3-star. There's nothing really that memorable about it to me. Also, the author was in some type of controversy on Twitter, if you would like to know that. It had something to do with the incest thing, so take that as you will. The next 3-star book that I had is Beautiful Bastard by Christina Lauren. I love Christina Lauren. If you watch my videos or you follow me on Twitter, you know that. Like, I'm a Christina Lauren stan. This is one of their earlier works. It's basically just an office romance. It's a guy and his secretary or personal assistant, to be honest, just banging the whole book, honestly. And that's why I give it 3 stars, because Christina Lauren's earlier works, they weren't really new adult romance. They were just smut, basically, and that's all this really was. Like, I mean, it was okay, but I prefer Christina Lauren's later works where they really transition from just smut to more of like new adult romance, like emphasis on romance as well. The next 3-star book that I have is Restore Me by Tahereh Mafi. This book follows the events after Ignite Me, and this was a reread, and it follows Juliet as being a supreme commander. The problem that I had with this book mostly had to do with the fact that nothing happened. When I originally read this book, I gave it 5 stars, and rereading it, I have no idea why I did that. I think it's because I was getting all this information that I didn't know, but actually nothing actually happened. This book was boring as a reread just because it like literally takes place in maybe 3 days, if that, and it's a whole bunch of Juliet mostly just walking around the compound like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this job, this is so hard. And it's Warner walking around like, I need to tell Juliet this, but I don't know how, and I'm sad. Yeah, and this is like a whole bunch of angst, and there's not a problem with angst, but there was no action or anything that really went with this until like literally like maybe the last chapter. And I didn't like how the characters were acting. Kenji especially was acting very, like I said in the beginning with Shadow Me, dumb, but like just plain dumb, not dumb with wisdom underneath. Like, he literally, at one point of this book, Warner has a panic attack and Kenji's like laughing at one point, and he was just kind of like, bro, why are you doing that? Like, what is a panic attack? And I'm like, where's the empathy? Like, what the hell, Kenji? What are you doing? It just didn't feel like the characters from the first trilogy, and yeah, it was just a 3-star for me. Now, after that, it did turn around for me and defy me. This is a very unpopular opinion from what I've seen. I gave this 4.5 stars. This book obviously follows the events after Restore Me, so I'm not going to spoil it, so there's not much I can talk about plot-wise. But what I did like is I felt like Tahereh Mafi came back to the characters from the original trilogy, in my opinion. I think a lot of people didn't feel that way as well. But I just started seeing Juliet as this badass again in this book, whereas in Restore Me, she kind of took a step back for me from where she was in Ignite Me, but I feel like she came to herself again in this book, and she was really badass. And Warner himself came back, I mean, obviously he was dealing with anxiety and things like that in Restore Me, and I'm not discrediting that at all. But in this book, I feel like Warner came back to himself as well. And I just felt like I was reading the characters from the original trilogy again, and actually stuff was happening and I was shook. Like, I felt like there was more of a plot in this one, whereas I felt Restore Me kind of suffered from second book syndrome, where it was just like setting up basically for this one. Alright, the next book that I gave 4.5 stars was Serious Moonlight by Jim Bennett. This book is about a girl who enjoys like detective work, and she has to get a job for the summer, and she ends up getting a job at this hotel. But when she comes into the hotel, she realized a guy that she hooked up with, like one night stand, never met him before, had sex, left, and never talked to him again. He works there, and he wants to get to know her more, so he ends up giving her this mystery and saying, like, there's a mystery at this hotel, do you want to solve it with me? And so she helps him solve it, and yeah, romance ensues. I enjoyed the romance between Birdie and Danielle. I thought it was cute, and I also liked how there was a lot of conversation around sex in a YA novel, because you don't get that a lot. The reason that Birdie kind of jetted after they had sex was it was her first time having sex, and it wasn't an enjoyable experience for her. So they had an explicit discussion about it as two people who had had sex with each other. In reality, sex is not always great, and I like how Jen Bennett kind of put that in this book, and also showed that there can be an explicit conversation about it. And especially as Birdie, as a woman, she was able to bring that up and have a discussion about it. The next 4.5 star book I have is We Set the Dark on Fire by Taylor K. Mejia. I'm not sure if I said that right. Sorry if I butchered her name. Okay, so this book is about two girls who go to the Medio School, which basically trains girls for one of two positions in society. You are either helping the husband run the household, or you're raising the children. So husbands get two wives, and this book is mainly from the point of view of Daniela, who is the one who is expected to raise the household. She's the #1 student at this school, except her lineage is a lie. She's technically not high enough to even be at this school, because people from the school come from one side of the wall, and Daniela is from the other side, so technically she shouldn't be at this school. So graduation day comes, and Daniela, being the #1 student at the school, gets paired with the #1 prospect husband. But who also gets paired with her is a segunda, who is the one who is expected to raise the children, that basically hates her. These two have always gone at it at school. Carmen, the segunda, is very condescending to Daniela, so she sees this and she's like, well, fuck, like, I have to live the rest of my life with her, like, what the fuck. But it actually turns out that this is a lesbian romance, so it's hate to love with two girls, like, hello. And it follows them being underneath this man, but also follows the political intrigue of kind of like today's society, where there's this wall built. Hello, sound familiar? There's this wall, and then the people behind the wall are like given the stereotype that they're bad and things like that, and their children are literally over there starving, while everyone on the other side of the wall is living this grand lifestyle. And there's this battle between that and the battle within Carmen herself, being someone from the other side of the wall living in this grand lifestyle, while her people are on the other side suffering, while also battling with her sexuality and her relationship with Carmen. So I found this book to be very well written. It's kind of disturbing just because this is supposed to be a dystopian novel, but reading it I'm like, this shit sounds familiar. Like the wall, people on the other side of the wall being stereotyped in media to be something that they're not. Like, I mean, it sounds like America, hello? So yeah, it was just very disturbing to read it, just because I'm like, this is supposed to be dystopian, but like, it's not that far off from real life. And that's what I really liked about this book, because I think it's important to read things like this, because like, hey, this is where we could be going. I gave those 4 stars. I think I just said I gave the last 2 books 4 stars, 4.5 stars, but they were actually 4 stars. This is my first 4.5 star book, and it's The Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman. I really like this book. This book takes place in a town called Four Pass, where there's these 4 prominent founding families who are expected to protect the town from this thing called the Grey. It's a monster that comes out of, like, it's kind of like another dimension, and it comes out and it comes and kills people. But the 4 founding families, 4 or 5, they have powers, and they're expected to protect the town. So this one founding family girl had moved away, and she's moving back into this town, and she's kind of finding herself in this town and tracing her lineage and kind of trying to figure out what happened with her family, why did her mom move away. Whereas it also follows 3 other people from this town that have stayed living there, who are trying to protect the town from this Grey as it gets worse and worse and worse. And it's all of them trying to work together and come together to try to fight this monster and try to figure out their lineage and what all of this means. So I really did like this book. I gave it 4.5 just because I didn't feel connected to any of the characters, and I'm a really character driven person, so that's really the only reason that I didn't give it that full 5 stars. But this book was very well written. I really did like the plot. I especially liked how she wrote her descriptions, because she just straight up said, like, this is a white girl, this was a black woman. Like, sometimes authors try to tiptoe around the fact that somebody's white or black, and especially in the case of descriptions of black people, it can kind of come off offensive how they describe it, like this chocolate mocha, like, just say she's black. Like, please don't do all of this extra stuff. It's just, honestly, sometimes it can just be offensive. So I like how she just was like, they're black, they're white. Like, that's all I needed to know. Thank you. Like, obviously I like when you're giving more of a description so you can picture the person in their head, but sometimes when you get to like describing skin tones of people, it can either be ambiguous or it can just be offensive. So I like how she straight up said the skin tone and then described other defining characteristics about the person. I also like that this book had a whole bunch of LGBT rep. Mainly it had a lot of bi rep, but that wasn't the only thing that made up the character. It was so much more than that, but being bi was just another part of who they were. So I like that a lot. Okay, the next 4.5 star book that I read is The Bride Test by Helen Hoang. I fucking adore this book. I adore anything by Helen Hoang. Her first book was The Kiss Quotient, which I also reread this month and I'll talk about. Okay, this book is about Kai, who's Michael's cousin from The Kiss Quotient. And his mother goes to Vietnam and finds a girl and brings her back for him, who as a potential wife, and tells him that, hey, she has to live with you for the summer. If you don't like her by the end of the summer, I'm sending her back to Vietnam and you can go on in your life without any wife. He's autistic and he doesn't want a relationship. He's told his mother multiple times he doesn't think that he can love and he doesn't want to be in any type of relationship or marriage, but she wants her son to be married, obviously. So she brings back this woman and she lives with him for the summer and they kind of get to know each other, and Kai starts questioning whether he wants to be in a relationship. So I really did enjoy this book. I liked the romance. It was very sweet. The girl was so fucking funny. Like, she made me laugh out loud at some parts, and so did Kai. Like, he was funny. The only reason I didn't give it 4.5 stars is this. I don't think this is a spoiler because you find out in literally like the first page that this woman has a daughter, but she leaves her daughter back in Vietnam when she comes to live with him, and then she doesn't tell him about her daughter until literally like maybe like the last page, and it's kind of like they never had a discussion about this, and I feel like her having a daughter was something serious, and it required more discussion that was there, and I didn't like how she withheld that for so long, just because I really think it is a big thing that you should tell someone. So yeah, I feel like it was never really handled. He was just kind of like, okay, the daughter showed up at the end and he was like, okay. Like, really, basically that was it. Okay, this next book, bitch. This next book, it was everything, period. I did give it 4.5 though, so I mean, I'll explain why. But this is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, my new favorite book by Christina Lauren that I've read to date. This book is Hate to Love, and it follows the siblings of a bride and a groom who end up getting sick at their wedding because of a seafood buffet. The siblings of the bride and the groom are the only two people who don't eat at the buffet, so the bride and the groom kind of push the honeymoon on them because it's not refundable. So they go on this honeymoon and they have to pretend to be husband and wife even though they hate each other, and kind of fake date in fucking Hawaii. Like, it was just everything. So they go on this honeymoon and kind of get to know each other more because they obviously have to stay in the same room, and they end up having to do these activities together, and they kind of start delving into like why do they hate each other and getting to know each other more. And I just really, really, really enjoyed it. It was so good. If you love Hate to Love or any type of new adult romance, like, you have to pick this one up. It's so good. But the reason that I gave it 4.5 stars, not the full 5 stars, is because it had everything. It had the humor, it had the romance that seemed so good. The only thing that I didn't like was at some point in the book, they actually leave Hawaii and they end up coming back to their hometown. I forgot exactly where it was. And that's when the book started going a little bit downhill for me, just because as they went back to their hometown, I felt like there was this forced conflict, and I just did not like the conflict at all that separated them. I didn't like how any of the characters, really except the girl, the protagonist, handled the situation. I didn't like how easily she forgave them, but that might just be my own pettiness. And I didn't like that I didn't get to see them together the way they were together outside of that honeymoon state. Like, I wanted to see development in their relationship away from the island, and that's really what made me take away half a star, just because that whole time that they weren't in Hawaii, I just didn't like the book at that point. Everything else, high quality content. Is that how you do it? How do you do chef's kiss? Okay, the last 3 books that I have read were 5-star books, and the first one is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This was a reread. I absolutely adore this book. This book follows a girl named Stella who has Asperger's, and she hires an escort named Michael in order to teach her how to be intimate with men. And I just adore this book. If you like new adult or any type of adult romance, you have to pick this one up. Michael is the sweetest being. I love him so much. He has so many iconic quotes in this, and he's also all about consent, and we love a man who's all about consent. It should be every man, and all men who aren't about that are trash and belong in jail, period. But yeah, Michael is they're all about consent. He's all about making sure that Stella is comfortable with every single thing that they do. I really like that about this book, and I really think the characters have a whole bunch of chemistry, and I like how he brings Stella out of her shell, but Stella also brings Michael out of his shell. Okay, I don't know which book I should talk about first, but the last 2 books are my favorite books of the month, period, hands down. The first one I'm going to talk about is Aurora Rising by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I love this book so much. This description, Jay Kristoff gave this description and he hit the fucking nail on the head. He basically said it was like a sci-fi breakfast club, which it really is. This book follows these 7 strangers who end up having to be in a squad together, and they don't necessarily like each other. There's only 3 of them that start off that like each other, and then the other 4 kind of get thrown in the mix, and they end up in the squad together, and they have to fulfill this mission in space, basically. And I love this book. This book was filled with like top-notch Jay Kristoff banter, wit, sarcasm. I know sometimes people can find the sarcasm cringy and like, but I personally don't. I love the humor in this. I love seeing the characters get together and get to know each other more and become friends. Like, I always love a little misfit friend group. Like, it's one of my favorite things ever. So that was everything to me. I loved it a lot, and I just loved one character specifically that made this book like 5 stars out of 5 for me was Cal. He's my whole husband. I love a broody man, and this man is broody, but then also sweet, but then also funny. So like, we love a well-rounded character. He was everything to me. So yeah, he's my whole husband. A lot of people are starting to say they like him, and I'm like, he was mine first, but okay. So yeah, he's mine. I love him, and he made this book for me. The only complaint that I have about this book, which is, take it with a grain of salt as you will, Zyla or Zila, I'm pretty sure it's Zyla, she got like 2 words in this book. Like, she didn't say anything, basically. But I think that was actually part of her personality, so you can take it with a grain of salt. I feel like she started coming out of her shell more towards the end, so I feel like she'll have more lines in the second book. But like, I really was excited for her character, and then I feel like I barely got to know her. So yeah, that was my only complaint with that. But yeah, I still really enjoyed the book. I gave it 5 stars. If you were thinking about reading Aurora Rising, pick it up now. What are you doing? I fucking love this so much. Like, please pick it up. Alright, the last book I read, and I'm pretty sure I think it is. I think it was my favorite book of the month, to be honest. I really did love Aurora Rising, but I think this one was my favorite book of the month. This is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, one of those. I adored this book. This book is Jesus Christ, how much Hate to Love did I read this month? It was a lot. I live in my best life. This book follows Alex, who is the son of the first woman president of the United States, so like, we already love that. And then it also follows Henry, who is the Prince of Wales. So yeah, it follows these two. Originally they hate each other because Alex feels like Henry's very standoffish, and he goes up to him at this party and is kind of nagging him a little bit and like pushing his buttons, and they accidentally knock over this cake, and it becomes this big ordeal in the media that they don't like each other and they're fighting, and like conflict between the United States and Wales and shit like that. So like, they have to wrap that up. They have to get it under wraps. So Alex is expected to spend time with Henry so they can have all these photo ops. They just want to have them on camera being friends, pretending to be friends. But as Alex gets to know Henry more, in this pretending to be friends, they start to actually become friends, and then eventually start to become even more. The two start to like each other. So yeah, it's a gay political romance. Like, hello, pick it up. That's all you need to know. But I really did adore this book. I thought it was so funny. It was filled with so much banter. I loved the interactions between Henry and Alex. I thought it was so cute, and I loved to see their relationship progress. It was filled with a lot of like memes and millennial culture, but at the same time it wasn't cringy, which is really hard to do, so I commend this author. Like, I never found anything cringy in this book. I thought it was all relatable. I thought it was all funny, and it also tackled important subjects such as sexuality and sexuality in a political space, as well as race. And because Alex is biracial, I didn't mention that his mom is white and I think his dad is Mexican, and so it also follows being a biracial person in America, especially one in such a high sphere. So I like that as well. So this was a perfect mix between like rom-com, really cute romance, as well as really important topics. So I really did enjoy this. If you are thinking about picking this up, please pick it up. I did not do it justice just now. Just read it for yourself. This is everything. I will be screaming that from the rooftops for the rest of my life. Please read Red, White, and Royal Blue. It's the gayest shit you'll ever read. So that was the last book that I read this month. This was my first wrap up. I felt like it was a little bit sloppy. Hopefully I'll get better. Thank you for watching, and please like, comment, subscribe if you like. I'll see y'all in my next video.